All right, let's talk about Bitcoin. The market is moving, and there's some serious data pointing exactly at where things could be moving to next. Bitcoin is ranging around $110,000. That's about a 20% move up from the 90K Bitcoin we saw mid-April. The interesting part here is Bitcoin's moving pattern, so to speak. Bitcoin's moved steadily with consistent buying pressure step by step. We're seeing a healthy market without panic or hype. And this is exactly what we want to see. Now, looking at open interest, we can see Bitcoin options just set a new all-time high for open interest. This means there are more open bets on Bitcoin's price than ever before. And check this out. Some traders placed huge bets on Bitcoin, hitting $300,000 by the end of June. This shows us the market is extremely optimistic and positioning itself aggressively because it believes Bitcoin will be pumping soon and by a lot. Next, let's talk about where we are in the cycle. This is the MVRV Z-score. Don't let the name confuse you. It just shows if Bitcoin is cheap or expensive compared to its average price over time. When it's low, Bitcoin is cheap. When it's very high, Bitcoin might be getting overpriced. And right now, Bitcoin's score is around 4 to 5, which is right in the middle. And this means that Bitcoin still has room to move higher before things get overheated. Now, we can't talk about Bitcoin without checking on the whales, or big players who hold over 10,000 Bitcoin. Right now, these mega whales are slowly selling some Bitcoin around $110,000, all while smaller holders, like everyday investors, are buying more. This is a healthy balance. Bigger investors taking profit while smaller investors build positions. This is exactly how strong markets work. Another important data point to take into consideration as well in trying to understand what's going on in the market is the fact that yesterday 9,000 Bitcoin left Coinbase. When Bitcoin moves off exchanges, it usually goes into cold storage or into people's wallets that are not connected to exchanges. With big withdrawals like this happening, it suggests investors are locking Bitcoin away, which shows real confidence. And zooming out, we can see the total crypto market cap grew by $1 trillion since April. So right now, we're just 6% away from the all-time market high, which happened in December 2024. Money is flowing strongly into crypto, and this tells us that investors are feeling optimistic. Finally, let's quickly look at Bitcoin dominance. This chart measures Bitcoin's share of the total crypto market cap. Bitcoin's dominance just bounced off support at 64%. If this dominance percentage moves higher from here, Bitcoin leads the market, and altcoins usually take a backseat. But if Bitcoin dominance drops below 64%, that signals money is flowing out of Bitcoin and into altcoins. When this happens, we call it alt season. You probably know if you've been in crypto for some time, but if you're new, here you go. When this happens, altcoins tend to outperform Bitcoin. And this chart is your signal to spot exactly when this shift happens. So to sum it all up, Bitcoin's market is strong. Price, open interest, whale behavior, and valuation metrics all are lining up for potentially higher prices. But price alone isn't the full story. Big moves are happening above and beyond metric data points we just covered, especially with Trump media's huge Bitcoin treasury announcement. Let's unpack this story because this one could change everything. Trump media just announced a $2.5 billion deal to buy Bitcoin for their company treasury. Yes, $2.5 billion. And this isn't a rumor or speculation. Here's the official announcement from Trump Media itself, operator of platforms like Truth Social, Truth Plus, and Truth Fi. And here's exactly how the deal breaks down. Trump Media is raising approximately $1.5 billion in selling common stock directly to around 50 institutional investors. And on top of that, they're issuing $1 billion in convertible notes. These notes have a 0% interest rate and can convert into shares at a premium price that's 35% higher than today's market price. Altogether, summing this all up, that's around $2.5 billion raised specifically to build a Bitcoin treasury. So you might ask, why would Trump Media put Bitcoin onto their balance sheet? Well, their CEO, Devin Nunes, explained it very clearly. He called Bitcoin an apex instrument of financial freedom. The company believes holding Bitcoin helps protect them from potential discrimination or exclusion by traditional banks and financial services, something we've actually seen happen to several major companies and especially the Trump family. But there's more. Trump Media also plans to integrate Bitcoin deeply into their products. Think subscription payments, utility tokens, and transactions within Truth Social and Truth Plus, which is very exciting to see them actually use the technology's benefits instead of just seeing and using, Bitcoin as a financial speculative asset. They're positioning Bitcoin not just as an investment, but as a strategic part of their business infrastructure. And here's how it affects their financial position. Right now, Trump Media has around $759 million in cash and short-term investments. After this deal closes, their total liquid assets will jump dramatically to more than $3 billion in total. Much of that, which is in Bitcoin. In terms of custody, in terms of keeping their Bitcoin safe, they've chosen Crypto.com and Anchorage Digital, both respected and regulated crypto custodians. So they're treating it very, very seriously. And this deal is very important. It's the biggest single Bitcoin treasury announcement we've seen from a US publicly traded media company ever. It also positions Trump Media as one of the first politically branded companies openly holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet at this scale. So let's talk about what this actually really means. We've seen big companies buy Bitcoin before. Think MicroStrategy, now branded as Strategy, think Tesla, but this is different. This isn't just about corporate finance. It's also about positioning within what Trump Media calls the America First economy. They're essentially making a statement that Bitcoin is part of their long-term strategy and identity, which will have a ripple effect across other companies in America and everyone watching what Trump and Trump's companies and brands are doing. So, corporate treasuries are stacking Bitcoin at an unprecedented scale. But what's happening in Washington is just as big. At the recent Bitcoin 2025 conference, which I am attending, Senator Cynthia Lummis hinted at something that could change the game completely. A plan for a national Bitcoin reserve. Let's dive into exactly what she revealed, because if this passes, it could be the most important Bitcoin development in years. So we've covered major moves from corporate America, but now let's shift gears and look at something even bigger. The US government getting serious about Bitcoin. Senator Cynthia Lummis just revealed a bold plan, a proposal for the United States to hold Bitcoin as part of a national strategic reserve. Here's exactly what Senator Lummis said, directly from the stage. A strategic Bitcoin reserve would be a geopolitical advantage for the United States. Her reasoning is clear. Bitcoin isn't tied to any other nation's economy or currency. Having a large-scale Bitcoin reserve would give the US a completely new financial tool at the global negotiating table. Here's how the big plan actually would work. Her proposal, which is set to be introduced officially next week, calls for the purchase and holding of 1 million Bitcoin by the US government. So to put that into perspective, that's roughly 5% of the entire Bitcoin supply that will ever exist. The impact of a buy like this would be tremendous. It would be huge. And not just in terms of price, but in terms of legitimacy and adoption and global financial positioning. So what would this mean practically? First, it would signal clear acceptance from the highest levels of the US government that Bitcoin is here to stay. Second, it positions Bitcoin as a strategic asset, much like gold or foreign currencies. Third, and maybe the most important, it places pressure on other governments around the world to consider adopting their own Bitcoin strategies. And all of this comes at a very interesting time because just as Senator LUMMIS makes this announcement, Japan, the world's largest international creditor, lost its position for the first time in 34 years. Global finance is shifting, and the US government is actively looking at Bitcoin as part of their strategic response. Now, let's make this clear. This bill still needs to go through Congress. There's a debate ahead, votes, and a lot of work to get done. But the message from Senator LUMMIS at this conference was direct and strong. Bitcoin is officially part of the national policy conversation. So now let's shift gears to talk a little bit about altcoins, because while Bitcoin is stealing the spotlight, some altcoins are quietly making huge moves. Solana just had its best month ever. Ethereum landed its own huge treasury allocation, and some on-chain signals hint that altcoins might be on the verge of something big. So let's dive into exactly what's happening here. Because if you're watching the altcoin market closely, there's plenty to be excited about. In May alone, Solana saw a massive surge in network usage. Daily active addresses and transactions on Solana are blowing every other blockchain out of the water. To give you an idea, Solana's daily active addresses are hovering around 1.8 million. That's roughly 4 times higher than Ethereum's current daily active addresses. Transaction counts on Solana are also consistently hitting over 100 million per day. And investors are noticing. Just in May alone, Solana saw more than 1.1 billion of net inflows from centralized exchanges. That's the largest monthly inflow since early 2024. Money is flowing into Solana, and the network is handling it smoothly. Another huge step for Solana's adoption that just happened is MetaMask, one of the most popular crypto wallets in the world, just officially added native Solana support. Millions of MetaMask users now have direct access to Solana's entire ecosystem. This makes it easier than ever to use Solana-based apps, move funds, and interact across blockchains. Now, moving on to Ethereum, there's another significant corporate treasury move. SharpLink Gaming just completed a $425 million private placement specifically to buy Ethereum for their corporate treasury. This is essentially Ethereum's own strategy moment. A major publicly traded company placing ETH on its balance sheet as a long-term strategic reserve. And finally, let's look at the total altcoin market capitalization. Traders often refer to this as the total 2. And right now, technical analysts see a big setup forming here. Total 2 is hovering right near an 8-year-long trendline. Historically, reclaiming this trendline has triggered significant altcoin market rallies. Some analysts are even calling for what they call a God candle, or an exceptionally large market-moving breakout. So let's recap what we've covered in today's video, because what's happening in the altcoin world right now with Solana's user growth and network activity and then being at an all-time high, if we couple with that the fact that Ethereum is landing major corporate treasury allocations and the fact that market-wide indicators like the total 2 hint that altcoins could soon see a wave of new capital. But before jumping to conclusions, let's zoom out for a second, because there's a lot to celebrate, but also some clear signs of caution. To really understand what's happening in crypto markets, we need to put all the pieces together. Bullish signals, red flags, everything. So you know exactly what to expect. Let's break it all down, or connect all the dots rather, in this next segment so that we can see exactly what's coming next. We have first, Bitcoin still leading, holding above the $110,000 level. The on-chain data is clean, and despite a bit of whales or large investors taking profits, momentum looks solid and steady right now. Next, let's add to this the fact that Trump media's $2.5 billion treasury deal completely changes the game. It's not just corporate adoption, it's political alignment. And with US lawmakers openly discussing a national Bitcoin reserve, the signal gets louder. It tells us altcoins are warming up. Solana's leading in activity. Inflows are spiking, and Ethereum just got a $425 million corporate treasury nod. Rotation season's not here yet, but the setup is being set up. And globally, as we covered, cracks are showing. Japan just lost its 34-year streak as the world's top creditor. The financial world is shifting, and Bitcoin is right at the center of this shift. This is the part of the cycle where positioning matters most. If you've been watching so far, you already know. We don't chase headlines. We get ahead of them here. So that's a wrap for today's video. Let me know in the comment section if you have a certain gut feeling or have, an opinion or perspective on where the market's moving to and why. The next chapter in crypto is already unfolding. I can feel altcoin season like in the air. It's coming, it's right around the corner, and I don't want you to miss it. So I'm very happy you found my channel, that you tune in, and I wish you the most successful altcoin season and bull run. And I can't wait to see you guys in my next video. Take care.